couple years ago, while doing something completely ordinary like all of us do, a very unnerving experience happened to me, and this is that story. It goes to show how easily this can happen when you least expect it, and if you aren't paying attention, it can have dire consequences. Let's get into the story. I had just gotten off of work, and I needed to go to the store to pick up a couple of things before I picked my child up at daycare afterwards. So I was planning on just making a quick trip into my local Walmart from where I was living and then be out of the store within 15 minutes. Now, this was something that was quite common for me to do. I didn't do this every single day, but most of my trips to the store to pick up groceries, even when I needed to get more than a few items, would always take me 15 minutes or less because I planned out my shopping trip and went through the aisles according to what I had on my list that I had written out in the order of the aisles at the store. So this made my shopping trips really, really fast, in and out in 15 minutes or less. I parked my car in a further location of the parking lot than closer to the store because I've gotten tired over the years of people dinging my car, so I would rather park further away and have a longer distance to walk to my car when I get back with groceries because I don't need a bunch of dings on my car. Going into the Walmart to pick up my grocery items was a fairly normal experience. There wasn't anything that I noticed out of the ordinary. Of course, I'm usually more of paying attention to what it is that I need to get and putting them in my cart and getting out of the store. This is something I would say is where I was lacking in being self-aware about my surroundings. Future-wise, I should probably pay a little more attention to what kind of people are around me and who keeps or possibly reoccurring around me and whatnot while I'm actually shopping for groceries instead of just going in there and focusing solely on what I'm trying to get and getting out. I paid for my grocery items at the checkout and I walked out with my cart to my car, and of course was all the way at close to the end of the furthest away of the parking lot. While I'm out in the parking lot is where all of my self-awareness really kind of takes flight, and I'm paying a lot more attention to all of the people around me who's coming out of the store at the same time, and I'm looking around at everybody while I am walking to my car. Then I open my trunk and I load my groceries into the trunk. I lock the door and then I go about going to drop off the cart at the nearest cart station out in the parking lot. And the whole time I'm doing this, I'm not really taking my eyes off of my surroundings for more than a couple of seconds to look in my trunk and put my groceries in. And of course, I'm scanning the parking lot. I don't see anybody approaching me. Usually when I park out this far in the parking lot, there are no other cars around me. Of course, that's my purpose because I'm tired of getting dings on my car. I get in my car and I lock the doors. I turn the car on and I start driving out of the Walmart parking lot. And the particular way that I am driving out of this parking lot, there are multiple exits. I don't know all of them just because I don't really hang out at every corner of the entire parking lot. I mean, this isn't a huge Walmart where this was at, but it's of course a fairly large parking lot. You know how Walmarts are. So the particular exit that I took was on to a main road. I get up to the main road and stop and wait because I need to make a left turn onto this main road. This is when I take a mental note of all of the other vehicles that are also leaving the parking lot at the same time that I am. So I'm sitting and waiting to turn left, making sure that there's no traffic going either way so that I can make my left turn. And I'm taking a mental note of the other vehicles that are behind me that are also leaving at the same time. This is just something that I regularly do whenever I leave a place that I've been. And I do this because I have been through previous experiences in my life that have caused me to be more hypervigilant around my surroundings when I am leaving somewhere. And if you are a person who has also had some pretty terrifying or stalker type experiences before in your life, I'm sure that you are also in the same boat of being a little more hypervigilant around what's going on around you when you're leaving a particular place. And all of the times that I have done this, I probably say hundreds and hundreds of times that I have just done this routine check of paying attention to the cars around me. I have never had anything happen until this day. Once the traffic was all clear on both directions, I made my left turn onto the main road there to proceed down and in the direction that I need to go. And after making my turn and I merge into traffic, I stop at the next light because from where this Walmart was and getting on that main road, there were about 3 traffic lights to get on the freeway, and I needed to get onto the freeway going south. So while I was stopped at the last traffic light before I made my left turn to turn south onto the freeway ramp, I made another mental note of the vehicles that were still behind me or around me. And it's quite normal at this point to have a couple of cars still going the same direction because, of course, this is only like 3 blocks, 3 traffic lights from the Walmart store itself, so it's fairly close. And a lot of people who leave the store go the same way up to this point. And at this particular point in me checking, there were just 2 vehicles that were going the same way as me. There was a burgundy SUV, and there was also a white pickup truck that was one of those really small ones that's like either a Ford Ranger or I don't know what the Toyota ones are, and they were only, the single cab type. So there's only enough room for 2 people to sit side by side. There is no back cab at all. The backs of the front seats would have been right up against the back of the vehicle and the glass before the bed of the truck, which is exterior. And both of these vehicles were waiting in the lane to turn left and get onto the freeway the same direction as me. Totally normal up to this point. So we're making our turns onto the freeway. We get onto the freeway, and the burgundy van stays in one of the slower lanes and continues southbound. The exit that I need in order to get to the daycare is actually a pretty fast exit. It's the first exit to take after getting onto the freeway from where I was at. And this particular exit was all the way in the left lane of the freeway. So I had to merge all the way from the right on-ramp almost all the way to the far left lane to be able to make this exit. If I did not make this exit, I of course could have made the next exit. It's just that it's quite a bit of a distance away, and I would have had to backtrack quite a bit just to come back up north to the daycare location. I merged all the way over to the left lane during a nice gap in traffic that was convenient at the right time. And as I am getting into that far left lane, I'm checking my rear view mirror and I'm seeing that white truck that had also left the Walmart at the same time as me is also making a fast merge from the far right lane where they got onto the freeway at the same as me and merging all the way into the same far left lane as me as fast as I was. So they had just barely gotten into the left lane right after I did. And they were doing this a couple car lengths behind me. So there was 2 cars between me and this white truck that just got into the same lane as me. Now that I am in that far left lane, I am taking my exit to the left. As it merges into 2 separate lanes, you can either stay going straight on the freeway, or you can take that exit onto a 2-lane road where the speed limit was 45. I get into the right lane because I am going to be making a right turn after a couple of right turns that I'll be passing. And those right turns are into a dealership business for cars, and that's it. The next right turn is onto a residential street where there are houses. And the daycare I was going to was an older type of Victorian house that was converted into a daycare. So the entirety of the street I was going to be turning onto was all a bunch of older styled houses, and this was the only building that was a commercial type of building. As I'm driving down this 2-lane road, me being in the right lane, awaiting my next turn to get onto the residential street for the daycare, I'm paying attention to that white truck that has now taken the same exit as me and is in the same right lane, 1 car length behind me. The first red flag that this person may be following me was the fact that I merged all the way on that freeway from the right lane to the left lane. It's a very fast merge pace there, and nobody else in all the time I've made this type of grocery trip and picking my child up from daycare after has anybody ever done that. So already I'm thinking that this person may actually be following me. This would be the first time that I've had this happen, and all the times I've paid attention to places that I leave and the cars that also leave at the same time as me. Then there's a second red flag that this vehicle, who is ever in it, is following me, because as I'm driving along in this right lane, I'm noticing that they are slowing down and trying to get further back. Now, the speed limit on this road is 45, and this person had to have been going 5, maybe 6 miles per hour slower than that, trying to create distance between me and them. And there's only a dealership with multiple entrances and exits between this road and getting onto it from the freeway and the next turn, which is residential. So logically, I was thinking that this vehicle has no reason to be slowing down like that and proceeding and going past the first entrance into the dealership and the second entrance. And at this point, I was pretty sure that they were following me. When somebody is following somebody else, this is a common thing that tends to happen, that they try to create distance between the vehicle that they're following and themselves so that it becomes less apparent that they are looking at you or following you, and try to make the victim not aware that they're being followed. But in my mind, I just know from experience and hearing about other stories of this happening to other people that this is a common thing that happens, and so I am aware that this is what happens, and it's a red flag for me instantly. Because they are getting further and further behind me at this point, I can't quite see what they look like in the vehicle or how many people are in there. Based on what I could see of dark figures in the cab of this truck, that there may have been 2 people, but then again, who knows if in the passenger seat it was a headrest that I was seeing instead of somebody's actual head. And realizing that they probably are following me, I started having an increased heart rate. I wasn't quite panicking yet, but I was like, oh my gosh, like they're following me, aren't they? My next thought was about the fact that I knew I wasn't driving to my home location. I was driving to a daycare. And so I made the decision to just continue to the location that I was going to because it was public, and I knew that there would be lots of parents and children all through the parking lot there. And I felt safe in a sense that I knew nothing was going to happen to me in that parking lot because there would be tons of kids and parents all over it. And so I decided to just drive to the daycare I was going to and just see what happens. I turn right onto that residential street that the daycare is on, and in my mind I am thinking they are also going to turn right. I know they are. So I continue down the road a little bit, but I decided to kind of slow down just a little bit because they were quite a ways behind me, and I wanted to make sure that I was turning into the daycare so that I could see them if they were turning right down the same street as me, the same residential street that the daycare was on. So I slowed down a little bit before I turned into the actual daycare driveway, because once I got into this driveway, I would have been covered up by fences and plants, and I wouldn't have been able to see them, or they wouldn't have been able to see me, and I wouldn't know if they were turning down the same street. I was still somewhat questioning that 1% that they weren't following me, and maybe they were just coincidentally going down the same road. And so as I was turning another right into the daycare there, this daycare sat on the corner lot. It was a fairly large lot, of course, because it was a big house with lots of property. And so it sat on the corner lot, and it was a really weird parking lot. I'll insert a picture here to kind of show you just a general drawing of what this parking lot looked like. Now, it's not 100% correct, but this is kind of how it was. You had a one-way entrance into the daycare parking lot, which was a weird turn. You had to go through the parking lot and do a big U shape just to be able to drive out the one-way exit. And as I am turning into this daycare's driveway, I see that white truck make the same right turn onto the same residential street as the daycare. And then my heart really started racing. I knew that they were 110% now following me. So I decided to drive into the driveway there, turn left, of course, because the way that this parking lot is, you have to turn left once you get to the side of the daycare building. And I decided to park my car in the furthest parking spot that was available, so that I had enough room between my car and them coming in and parking wherever they were going to park, so that there was enough space between either cars. Now, I didn't know what they were going to do, but in my planning, I was hoping that if need be, as long as there aren't any other cars in front of me, which there weren't, I could proceed to go out the one-way exit and then drive to the nearest police station if need be, whatever happens with this situation. As I am waiting with my car parked in that far parking spot, I am just watching that entrance corner like a hawk, not taking my eyes off of it for a second. I decided to lean all the way over my center console and into my passenger seat, is to put my face up really close to the window so that I could watch them and that they could see that I was watching them. I wanted them to know that I knew they were following me. When they came through that entrance corner, turned left, that's when I could see that there were two men in that truck. I could see two bodies, two sets of shoulders and chest in that truck. I could not see their faces because there was a glare from the sun on the window, the side window, as well as the windshield. And so they drive into that first parking spot that is closest to the daycare, and they slowly crawl through that parking spot into the next one that was in front of that one, and then they turn right to go out of that one-way exit around the back of the daycare. And I was just thinking in my head, like, why are these two guys following me? What were they planning on doing? Like, there's no cab to their truck. It's only a bed of a truck and these two guys in it. It was quite clear to me that they were not there at all whatsoever to pick up any children. Not only because of all the red flags of them following me into this daycare, but also because a single cab truck, and they literally slow drove through the parking lot and then left. They were 100% there following me with whatever their intentions were. Once they started driving out the back of the one-way exit to the main road, I started thinking about the local news stories that I had been hearing about, and at this particular time there had been an increase in attempted abductions of women at grocery stores all over the news. So in my mind, that's kind of what I was thinking that their intentions were, that they were planning on abducting me, following me to my home and abducting me and maybe throwing me in the back of the bed of the truck. Or maybe that's not what their intentions were, and they were hoping to follow me to my home, where they would invade my home and then do whatever to me There's a lot of possibilities on what their intentions could have been. Tell me what your thoughts are based on what's happened in this story. What do you think they were going to do with me or to me once they followed me to my house? I know I'll never know exactly what their intentions with me were, but it just goes to show that it doesn't matter how quick of a trip you can make somewhere. You could be in and out in 15 minutes or less. And these guys, these two men, had to have been waiting either in the parking lot or right at the entrance and exit of the store to be able to follow me out and try to follow me home that fast. I actually think they were probably sitting in their truck waiting and ready to go because I loaded my groceries into the trunk and got into the car so quickly and out of there. I didn't waste time sitting in the parking lot. And if they had been parked somewhere else and not close by to my car, they wouldn't have been able to leave at the same time as me. So these predators are out there sitting and waiting for unsuspecting women. I'm assuming that this was women targeted, not that this doesn't happen to men, and these predators following maybe men somewhere to rob them or whatever their goals are for that. But I happen to just believe that this was purposely to target me as a woman, just because this had been happening on a regular basis at this point in time to other women at other stores that was being reported to the police and on the news. And of course, the motives behind what they were reporting on the news for these things happening were for these women to be put into human trafficking. Now, whether these two guys were trying to do the same thing with me, I'll never know, or maybe it was they had some other type of motive for me. The takeaway from this story is that you should always be aware of your surroundings, especially as a woman, and pay attention to the people around you and when you are leaving and trying to go home, or maybe you're not heading home and you're going somewhere else after the store. Either way, there are these people sitting and waiting and trying to follow you home to do God knows what. And if you aren't paying attention and making decisions to protect yourself from these predators, bad things can happen. If you have a similar story that happened to you or someone that you know, I would love to hear about it down in the comments if you would like to share. This is the first video of a new series of videos that I will be making, not on a regular basis, but once in a while when I have a story that I feel like talking about, I will share it with you guys along with a time lapse of one of my drawings. So if you guys like this kind of content or hearing some of these interesting personal stories, feel free to hit that like button or leave a comment and let me know what your thoughts are. Stay safe out there, guys, and I will see you in the next video.